Okay, so today we're doing a deep dive into something that, well, it's gotten a lot of people riled up, to say the least. We're talking about those tariffs that Trump slapped on vehicles coming in from Canada and Mexico, specifically that 25% tariff. And we've got this article here, and wow, they really don't mince words.
No, they really don't. It's pretty clear from the get-go that the author sees this whole thing as a disaster, like a complete and utter disaster.
Yeah, the word disaster gets thrown around a lot, doesn't it?
It does, and it's always connected to this idea that Trump is, well, favoring the wealthy at the expense of everyone else.
Right, right. Like this is just another move in that pattern, according to the author.
Exactly. And it's interesting how they use language to really drive that point home.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're calling this whole thing brainless, reckless.
Even stupid at one point.
Yes, stupid. I mean, it's not exactly subtle, is it?
Not at all. I mean, this is an opinion piece, so it's meant to be persuasive.
Mhm.
They're trying to get you, the reader, to feel that same anger and frustration that they feel.
Okay, so we get it. The author's not a fan. But beyond the name calling, is there any substance to their argument?
Well, yeah, actually, they make some pretty interesting points. Like, for instance, they talk about how the auto industry relies so heavily on imports.
Oh, right, for both parts and finished vehicles,
Exactly. So their argument is that these tariffs will inevitably increase the costs for manufacturers.
which then get passed along to consumers.
Exactly. Higher prices for everyone.
And that's a real concern, right? I mean,
Well,
people are already struggling to afford cars as it is.
absolutely. And it could have a ripple effect throughout the entire auto industry. I mean, if fewer people can afford to buy new cars.
Then that means fewer cars get produced.
Exactly. And then you've got potential job losses. It's a whole messy situation.
And isn't that the opposite of what Trump promised?
Yeah.
Like, weren't these tariffs supposed to create jobs?
Well, that's what he claimed, yes.
Uh,
But the author argues that the reality is going to be very different.
Fewer cars, fewer choices, and fewer jobs. Sounds pretty grim.
It does. But, we always have to look at the data, right? I mean, the author's making a prediction. It's compelling. But we need to see if it actually pans out. We need to look at the economic impact of similar tariffs in the past, see if those predictions actually came true.
Good point. And then there's the whole issue of retaliation, which the author brings up, like what's stopping Canada and Mexico from hitting back with tariffs of their own.
Yeah, I mean, that's a classic tit for tat scenario that we see in trade wars. One side makes a move, the other side retaliates, and it can just escalate from there.
And everyone loses in the end.
Pretty much, yeah. No one really wins a trade war.
So where does that leave us? What are we supposed to make of all this?
Well, I think the author makes a strong case that these tariffs could have some pretty serious negative consequences, both for the economy as a whole and for you, the consumer. It makes you wonder about the decision-making process, doesn't it? Like, what factors might lead a president to make a decision that seems to harm their own citizens? Is there something else going on that we're not seeing? Or do they have different information that's informing their decisions?
It's a lot to think about. Thanks for breaking it all down.
You got it.
All right, folks, that's our deep dive for today. We'll keep you updated as this situation unfolds. But in the meantime, it's definitely worth keeping an eye on. These things can have a real impact on all of our lives.